Hello again, my DIY loving friends. I'm Sarah, and this is Medicated Housewife DIY, where crafting and mental health come together. Today, we're diving into the magical world of Dollar Tree DIYs to transform your space into a high-end haven without breaking the bank. Get ready to dazzle your guests with a designer-inspired reindeer, a boho-inspired nutcracker, and a high-end modern wood riser made totally out of wood cubes. All perfect for the holiday season. So what are we waiting for? Let's go DIY together. For this DIY, I've got this large plastic reindeer I got on Amazon in a pack of 4. I'll link him for you below. I'm spray painting him white with this Rust-Oleum paint and primer, which I will also link for you below. You can also use another reindeer from somewhere else, like this one from Walmart, or of course, the clear acrylic one at Dollar Tree. My Dollar Tree didn't have any, as usual. Once the spray paint dried, I'm using this tape measure and a pencil, and I am first placing a small mark every 1/4 inch around the base of the reindeer. That's just the measurement I decided to use. You can go a little bigger, like in 1/2 inch increments if you'd prefer. I just started with the 1/4 inch and kept it at that measurement. Then, still using a pencil, I begin to hand draw lines across the base, starting at one of those 1/4 inch marks and ending at the mark on the other side of the reindeer base. I try to keep my lines straight, but they are not perfect because they are still hand drawn at the end of the day. And once those lines are drawn a 1/4 inch apart, I measure 1/4 inch increments going the other direction and create a bunch of small 1/4 inch spaced squares. We are making a grid or checkerboard pattern around the entire reindeer. And because he's not straight, there are lots of curves and corners. Our checkerboard is not straight and even either. We just do our best. And here you can see that if you do 1/2 inch squares instead of the 1/4 inch, it may be easier because you have less tiny checkerboard boxes to draw. But as they say, I was already dirty with the 1/4 inch, so I just kept going with the tiny squares. Leaving the antlers and the hooves unmarked, I took a thin Sharpie and placed a dot in every other square to help me know which squares needed to be painted black and which did not. I'm using Apple Barrel Black Gloss paint, which I will link for you below, and a tiny brush to paint every other tiny square black, starting on the underside of the reindeer body, working my way around the whole body, and then doing the legs, the neck, and the face. I'm not gonna lie, this is time consuming. It's really easy, but time consuming. And just another reason why you may opt to larger size squares. That's just a suggestion. I also paint the face with a modified checkerboard, making the eyes and the snout a solid black, as well as the larger part of the tail. That was also solid black. I wanted to add a pop of color somewhere, so I'm using this Decor Art Hauser Green on the reindeer's ears, on the inside ears and on the sides. I wanted the hooves and the antlers to be metallic gold, and initially I was using a gold paint to do this, but I didn't like the coverage, so instead I grabbed this Rub and Buff in the color Grecian Gold, and that covered all the areas I needed with 1 coat coverage, plus it dries really quickly. I also wanted my checkerboard reindeer glossy, so I am using this Minwax polycrylic in clear gloss to seal the entire reindeer and to make him super glossy as well. And this is my Mackenzie Childs designer-inspired reindeer, and honestly, I love this little guy. The checkerboard in gold is always a classy high-end look, and the addition of the bright green ears adds just the pop of color he needed. You could also do the ears in a soft pink color. That worked nicely too. Just the absolute perfect addition to jazz up your holiday decor. For this DIY, I'm using 168 of the small wood cubes from Dollar Tree, and I'm using 8 of these small cubes to make 1 large wood cube, and that's 2 rows of 4 cubes, 2 by 2, like I'm showing you right here. But altogether, you will need 168 small wood cubes from Dollar Tree. So to begin making the larger wood cubes, I start by joining all the small cubes together into groups of 2, as you see right here. I'm using Super Glue Wood Glue from Dollar Tree. Then I continue making the large cubes by then gluing together 2 of the 2 cube groups to make them all square groups of 4, as you see me doing right here. I place one group of 4 on top of another group of 4 and glue them in place to create one large cube. I do this with all my groups of 4, and I will end up with 21 large cubes that we made from our 168 small wood cubes. Because I want each of my large cubes to look more like one solid piece of wood, I grab this Elmer's wood filler and fill in all of the seams between the individual small cubes on all 21 of my large cubes. And then I'm going to allow that wood filler to fully dry. Once all the wood filler is dry, I use a sanding block to sand the excess filler down so it's smooth. And then I'm going to use some baby wipes to wipe away the dust on all of those 21 large wood cubes. I'm using equal parts hot water and strong instant coffee to make a deep, rich, warm brown coffee stain color to paint all 21 of my large wood cubes. I paint all sides of every cube with the coffee, doing 2 coats on each cube, and using a dry paper towel to soak up the excess liquid. Then I give them some time to dry. I attach 4 of the large cubes together 2 by 2 and then glue 4 more large cubes directly on top of those. So now I have one jumbo cube made up of 8 of the large cubes. I did make a second jumbo cube the same way with 8 large cubes, but then I realized I had to remove one of those 8 cubes to be able to make my second jumbo cube fit over the first one the way that I was going to need it to, as you'll see me do. So I removed 1 cube. So now I'm only using 7 cubes to make the second jumbo partial cube. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Adding some more glue to the space where I had removed that 8th cube, I then attached the second jumbo cube to the first jumbo cube on the corner, as you see me doing here, and I gave it a couple of minutes for that glue to set. I take another large cube and glue it to the top corner of one of those jumbo cubes, and then glue another cube next to the corner cube using some loose cubes as spacers just to hold that side large cube in place while it dries. I place a 3rd cube on that other side of that corner, again using some spacers to hold it in place as it dries. Now you can always pause or replay the video to see what I'm doing here again. It sounds more complicated explaining it than it actually is. I turn the whole piece over, and on the opposite corner of that first jumbo cube, I attach 2 more cubes on that corner, and I wait a little bit for those to sort of set up and dry before adding my very last cube also on that corner, the same as we did on the other side. While those cubes are drying, I have 2 of these 4-inch wood rounds I got on Amazon, and I'll link them for you below. But if you can find the wood round plaques at Dollar Tree, you can always use those. I paint both wood rounds on both sides and then on the edges with some folk art antique wax, and I did 2 coats on each and used a dry paper towel to wipe away the excess wax. Then when my wood cube piece is mostly dry, I add that final cube on the top corner, using up all 21 of my large wood cubes. And again, you can always pause or replay the video if it helps you follow along on the cube placement. I promise it's not as complicated as it sounds. I use some wood glue, although E6000 may be better suited for this for added strength. I place the glue on the 3 corners of the bottom corner of my wood cube piece and center it onto the wood round. And then I'm going to add some glue to the top 3 corners and place my second wood round on top of that and let it all dry. And oh my goodness, this is my gorgeous wood cube riser or candle holder. I love this so much. And an added plus, it's made totally of those tiny Dollar Tree wood cubes. This piece looks like so much more than what it is, and that feat alone is always a win in my book. You'll have to be the judge, but I really think this piece of all wood decor is gorgeous. For this DIY, I've got this 14-inch woodcracker I got on Amazon, and I'll link it for you below, although the tag says Hobby Lobby, so you might be able to find it there. Dollar Tree Plus does carry large nutcrackers, but I could not find one at my Dollar Tree. Shocker. I'm using equal parts hot water and instant coffee to paint the face and hands of the nutcracker, just to give a warm wood tone to those areas, but to keep them still looking like wood. I used some folk art antique wax to paint his shoes a nice rich dark brown, and also to paint the crown part of his headwear, just creating some nice contrast between the wood tones. I go back in with the instant coffee to paint the inner part of the crown, again for contrast, and also those little ball embellishments along the top edge of the crown. I paint the larger top ball of the crown in the middle with the antique wax, keeping the wood tone contrast of light and dark theme going. I bring in yet another wood tone color using some diluted antique wax mixed with plain water, and I paint all the areas of the main body of the nutcracker using the diluted wax. I leave the little bands along the nutcracker's uniform unpainted because I have other plans for those. I'm using this jute ribbon I had in my stash, but you can find some other types of jute ribbon at Dollar Tree usually as well. And I hot glue it, covering the band going across the middle of the nutcracker's waist. Then, using that same ribbon, I cover the bands on both of his legs going around where his boots would be ending. And also I put that ribbon around the arm cuffs at the bottom of his uniform top where his wrists would be. I've got some burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree, and I cut a long piece to drape over his shoulder band, and then cut a third piece overlapping that piece going in another direction, leaving some excess hanging all around the shoulder. Then I wrap a piece of the ribbon around the burlap on his shoulder band so that you can still see the burlap at the top of the shoulder and the burlap that's hanging on the sides. I trim the pieces of burlap and pull out the tiny pieces of twine in that burlap apart, creating this like little fringe going all around the shoulder. And I've made a jute and burlap fringed epaulette, yes, on the shoulder of his uniform, which I was quite proud of, and I repeated that on the other side as well. I used some wood furniture markers from Dollar Tree to color in the little sections of his stick that he's holding, which I have no idea what that's supposed to be called. Feel free to let me know. I figured the easiest way to create his teeth and mouth was to draw them on a small piece of poster board. I did my best here, and yes, I'm well aware his mouth that I drew makes him look like a serial killer. It's so scary. Don't worry, we're going to redo it later. I needed to attach the long beard behind that scary serial killer mouth, so I unraveled a bunch of jute, combed it out, fluffed it, and used some hot glue to attach the top of the beard in the back behind his mouth. Then I used a scissors to trim and shape the beard and cut away the excess jute around the mouth so that you couldn't see the jute behind there. Then, once I had a shape I was happy with, I was ready to hot glue the beard and mouth to the nutcracker's face, and again, you'll see we will change that mouth later, I promise. I also used some leftover unraveled jute to create a mustache for my nutcracker by placing a tiny rubber band in the middle like I was making a bow, and I trimmed the two sides to resemble a mustache shape. After seeing how scary his mouth came out, I decided not to draw his eyes and eyebrows. I actually just Googled nutcracker faces, picked one out, and printed it. Then I cut out a pair of eyes and eyebrows and used some glue stick to attach them to my nutcracker's face so he did not have serial killer eyes. Next, I attached the mustache right under his nose where mustaches belong using some hot glue. And yes, I attached his scary mouth, but I do replace it later. I made 6 twine buttons by tying multiple knots out of jute and then cutting them. Then I hot glued my knot buttons on the Nutcracker's jacket, 3 on one side and 3 on the other, which I really should have done before attaching the beard, but this is where we are and this is what we're doing. To embellish his jacket even more, I cut 3 pieces of light colored twine and attached them to the jute buttons going down his jacket. I also gave his beard another trim just to neaten him up. I used some black acrylic paint to paint the base he was standing on, and off camera, as I said, I changed his mouth and used one of the Nutcracker mouths that I had Googled, cut it out, glued it to a piece of poster board, and I attached the beard to it the same way before gluing his new mouth to his face. And this is my adorable woodsy boho-inspired Nutcracker. Admittedly, this is the first Nutcracker I've ever done because that's usually not my cup of tea, but I love this neutral, multi-wood-toned little guy with his jute and burlap, epaulets, and he's definitely one of my new favorite projects. And he is going to be the star of the show in my home this holiday season. Thanks for joining me on this crafting journey. I hope you're as thrilled with your new high-end decor as I am. Let me know in the comments which DIY was your favorite and why. You know I love hearing from all of you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more budget-friendly magic. Until next time, remember, with a little creativity and a trip to Dollar Tree, you can make your home look like $1,000,000.